Have you ever opened someone's car and felt like you weren't allowed to breathe? The seats look brand new, not a single crumb, no empty bottles, no dust on the dashboard. It almost looks untouched. And then there's the opposite. Cars that look like they survived an apocalypse. So here's the question. Why do some people become almost obsessed with keeping their car spotless? Is it simply because they like cleaning? Or is your car secretly revealing something about your personality? Something even you may not realize? Psychologists have spent decades studying how our environments influence our minds, and surprisingly, one of the most personal environments we own isn't our house. It's our car. Because unlike a living room, a car is a tiny world that belongs almost entirely to one person, and what happens inside that small space often mirrors what happens inside the mind. Today, we're going to uncover the fascinating psychology behind people who keep their cars unbelievably clean. And by the end, you might never look at a spotless car the same way again. Most people think of a car as a machine, something that gets you from point A to point B. But psychologically, your brain treats it differently. Researchers have found that people quickly develop feelings of ownership over objects they use frequently. This is called the endowment effect. Once something becomes mine, the brain naturally starts protecting it. For some people, that protection goes far beyond avoiding scratches. Cleaning the car becomes protecting a personal space. Imagine carrying your bedroom with you everywhere. Wouldn't you want it to stay comfortable? For many spotless car owners, that's exactly what their vehicle feels like. A moving safe zone. Here's something strange. Visual clutter creates mental clutter. When your eyes constantly process wrappers, receipts, dust, and random objects, your brain has to process them too, even if you don't notice it consciously. Studies have shown clutter can increase stress and make concentrating harder. Now imagine driving every day inside that environment. Some people simply can't relax when surrounded by disorder. Cleaning the car isn't really about the dirt. It's about removing distractions. The cleaner the environment, the quieter the mind feels. It's almost like pressing the reset button after a long day. Life is unpredictable. Traffic, work, money, relationships, unexpected problems appear all the time. You can't control most of them, but you can control your car, every surface, every object, every detail. Psychologists call this creating a sphere of control. When life feels uncertain, people naturally focus on things they can organize. That's why some people clean during stressful times. Not because they're avoiding problems, but because restoring order around them makes the chaos feel smaller. Their spotless car becomes one small victory, a reminder that not everything is out of control. Imagine picking someone up for the first time. Before they hear you speak, they've already noticed your car. Humans constantly make quick judgments. It's called thin slicing. Our brains form impressions in seconds using surprisingly little information. A clean car quietly communicates messages like, I pay attention, I'm responsible, I take care of my belongings. Whether those judgments are accurate is another question, but first impressions matter. Some spotless car owners aren't trying to impress anyone. Others know, consciously or not, that people notice. And they prefer the message a clean car sends. Here's where psychology gets interesting. Among the 5 major personality traits studied by psychologists, one consistently predicts organized habits: conscientiousness. People high in conscientiousness usually like planning, they meet deadlines, they notice details, and they often keep their spaces cleaner. Not because they're perfectionists, but because order helps them function. To them, putting away an empty coffee cup immediately feels easier than letting it sit for 3 days. Their brain prefers finishing small tasks now instead of creating bigger ones later. That's why their car often stays clean without much effort. It's simply part of their routine. Here's something many people don't realize. We don't just own possessions. Sometimes our possessions become part of our identity. Think about motorcycles, classic cars, luxury vehicles. People often describe them almost like family members. My baby. She runs perfectly. They even give them names. Why? Because the brain naturally forms emotional attachments to meaningful objects. For someone who loves driving, cleaning isn't just maintenance. It's care, almost like watering a favorite plant. Neglecting it feels wrong, not because someone else will notice, but because it no longer reflects who they believe they are. Now here's the twist. Keeping a spotless car isn't always healthy. Sometimes the cleaning stops being satisfying and starts becoming stressful. Some people become extremely uncomfortable if a single footprint appears. A tiny piece of dust can ruin their mood. Instead of owning the car begins controlling them. Psychologists sometimes call this perfectionistic thinking, the belief that everything has to stay exactly right. If the standard becomes impossible, peace disappears. Ironically, the thing meant to reduce stress begins creating it. So a spotless car isn't automatically a sign of emotional balance. Context matters. Have you ever seen someone say, "It's just a car," while another person quietly removes invisible dust from the dashboard? Neither person is wrong. Their brains simply assign different meanings to the same object. One sees transportation, the other sees personal space. One notices dirt only when it becomes obvious. The other notices it immediately. Our attention isn't objective, it's shaped by personality, habits, experiences, and values. That's why two people can sit in the exact same car and have completely different reactions. So, what does a spotless car really mean? Not necessarily wealth, not necessarily perfection, and definitely not that someone is better than everyone else. More often, it reflects how that person relates to order, responsibility, comfort, and control. For some, it's a peaceful escape from a chaotic world. For others, it's simply a habit built over years. And for a few, it's part of who they are. The next time you step into someone's perfectly clean car, don't just notice the shiny dashboard. Ask yourself, what invisible part of their mind might this little world be reflecting? Because sometimes the smallest spaces tell the biggest psychological stories. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior, subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments, is your car spotless, or does it look like it has its own ecosystem?